What in the 20s is going
in the
on?
20s,
Think about
yes, the 20s, baby.
Plenty. What in the 20s is
I
going
am
on?
here for my 20s, baby.
This is the 20s.
Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Zamam Kize, and this is What's in the 20s, a podcast where you listen to me grow through its baby. On this episode, we're going to be speaking about how to conquer 2026, how I came up about, with this right now, right? And it's actually going to be very exciting. I think that very often I start planning for the year at the beginning of January, right? As we all do. It's such a great time. It's such an amazing time to just get your journals, to write down everything, your resolutions and all of that. But I have decided to do things differently on the podcast. And I hope that you guys are willing to join me on this, I hope that you guys feel geared up and prepared and willing and all of that. And what we're going to be doing, it's basically a series that we're going to be doing for the next couple of weeks, which is essentially preparing for our 2026 now. I think that it can be too late sometimes to start at the beginning of the year because now what we're relying on is momentum. We're relying on motivation. We're relying on just like the New Year's feels, to kind of get our year going and all of that. But I was just like, why do we start so late? Why don't we plan now? Why don't we start now? I made this example episodes before where I say that, like with a company and a business, they don't start their new year only planning then, what they would like their next quarter to look like. They've already planned, for the next 6 months even, what the next year and all of that kind of stuff is going to look like and stuff like that. I'm currently writing a book with Pan Macmillan, right? I've just been announced as their new author and all of that. But like they already know, which books they're going to be releasing next. They already know what's going to be happening and all of that kind of stuff because you plan ahead. And I think we should do the same thing with ourselves in our lives. Like, don't just start filling up the gyms in January and all of that, like thinking, okay, now we're ready, now it's time to go and all of that kind of stuff. We need to start now, thinking about what is it that we would like our year to look like? What is our plan for the year? How are we going to conquer it and stuff? Get ourselves into the mindset, into the habits, because what we're actually trying to do is build a discipline. We're trying to build obedience, right? To just make next year very different from all our other years, where we just come into it and now start thinking about what we want and whatever it is. We're starting to gear up and get ourselves in the mindset now. I think sometimes we like to give ourselves the pleasure of like leisure, right? To be like, oh no, I'll only worry about that next year. I'll take care of that next year. Let me go do all the self-sabotaging habits now that I can before next year comes and all of that. And I think that's why we're already starting at the back burner of things. I think professional athletes, right? They're already training in their off season, right? Those who want to be the best of the best of the best. They're off season. They're not just drinking like out of control, eating out of control, drinking, because they know that like their season is coming. You know what I'm saying? They're preparing for when that time is back and stuff. So when they're in their off season, they're still keeping a consistent routine and regiment and all that kind of stuff. So that by the time it's time to get back in and stuff, they're ready, they're prepared, and they're outdoing their previous potential and standard. They're surpassing their standard and their performance from the previous season, because they had used that time to prepare, to improve. If you even listen to, I guess, stories of like perhaps Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan and stuff like that, they would speak about how the fact that they're already in the gym training and stuff before practice even starts, right? Before the rest of the team arrives to begin practice and all of that kind of stuff, they're already there earlier, just getting themselves ready, getting their minds ready, getting like, you know what I'm saying? And I think we just need to have that kind of mentality. At least that's what I'm trying to do with my life, is to not give into the spirit of fatigue and laziness and all of that kind of stuff, but to actually start planning for my year now, taking control of my life now. So first, what we're going to do is take inventory of 2025. What worked? What are the things you're happy with? What are the things you're pleased with? What are new habits and routines and all of that kind of stuff that you implemented in this year that worked for you, that makes you satisfied, that makes you feel like this is something that could, really help me make a lifestyle change. Maybe it was the fact that you reduce the amount of sugar intake you have every single day, reduce the amount of salt intake and all of that kind of stuff. You changed you just make better decisions when it comes to what goes into your food, what goes into your body and all of that kind of stuff. Maybe it's how you spend your weekends, that instead of going out Friday, Saturday and Sunday, you now choose 2 days or 1 day or whatever. What worked for you that made you feel more rejuvenated, fulfilled, happy, joyful, restful? Start taking notes of all of those things that, oh, when I did this, I felt this way. So this plus this equaled this. And so perhaps if I keep doing this and maintain it, that's what's going to help me, just feel better about myself, better about my life. What didn't work? What was it that when you tried this skincare routine, all it did was break you out, make you miserable, make you just feel so lose confidence in yourself and all of that kind of stuff, that we're actually just like, yeah, I'm not going to continue with this. I'm choosing a different direction and stuff. What messed with your routines? What messed with your work ethic and all that kind of stuff? What relationships that you maintained in the year was just hindering you from where it is you're trying to be? What isn't working for you anymore? There's the spaces that you're growing in, that you're shifting, that you're just becoming a better version of yourself. And you got to really take a look and say what isn't aligning with that, right? And actually has to go, in your next year to come. What are we leaving behind? So again, as I'm saying, what are certain relationships that you actually just can't keep up with? What are certain ways that you present yourself that you're actually not interested in maintaining anymore? Perhaps it's how you dress, perhaps it's adjustments to your hygiene routine, perhaps it is the hours you put into studying, to working, to whatever it is. What are things that you actually like, bad habits and traits and all of that kind of stuff that is desperate for you to leave it behind, and to not carry it with you into the next season of your life. A tough decision, because sometimes it means hurting people, hurting yourself and all of that. But I think when you have the courage and you muster up the strength and the courage to leave certain things behind, you're just going to feel a lot lighter. The burden is a lot less. You have something, you're able to just carry yourself into where it is you're trying to go and be and all of that, rather than trying to maintain anything and everything, for the sake of just doing it and all of that. What needs to change? That's the fourth thing when we take inventory of our life. What is it that will not work the same way? So say perhaps you decide to keep that relationship that is a bit tough right now, is a bit out of alignment with it, with where you're trying to go. What needs to change in the relationship for you to feel secure in it again, for you to feel confident again, for you to want to have this person stay in your life, in the next season and all of that kind of stuff? What tough conversations need to happen? What tough conversations need to happen with yourself that needs to change about the way you're living, the way you're making decisions, the way you keep falling back to procrastination and other forms of self-sabotage and all of that kind of stuff? What in your life needs to have a shift, in order for you to have a better, happier, more fulfilled and productive year ahead? Ask yourself questions like, what is it that I want out of 2026? 2025 for me, the biggest thing that I wanted was rest. I was very, very, very clear and very intentional about the fact that because I was so burnt out the previous year, I was so tired, I felt like I was carrying such a heavy burden. This year I said that my goal is to slow my life down. And I did. And I actually did. As uncomfortable as it was and all of that kind of stuff, that was how I wanted to feel at the end of 2025. I wanted to feel well rested. I wanted to feel restored. I wanted to feel rejuvenated. And when you're able to ask yourself those questions, what is it? How do I want to feel at the end of it? Do I want to feel accomplished? So what is that going to take out of me? What do I need to achieve and all that kind of stuff to make me feel accomplished by the end of next year? Do I want to feel in love? What does that look like? What do I need to do to align me closer and closer to that goal? Do I want to feel just well-traveled and all of that kind of stuff? Do I want to feel more cultured? Do I want to feel more, how is it that you want to feel coming out of 2026? What does success look like to you? As I said, like, if you want to feel achieved and stuff, what will make you feel successful? What will make you feel like, oh, I did it? Because it doesn't look the same for everybody. This year, I feel successful, not because I somehow managed to do things that I never done before and stuff like that. Like, it wasn't that. I feel successful because, as I said, I learned to slow my life down. I learned to be okay with taking some time off. I learned to be okay with taking care of myself, with going to therapy, with implementing self-care practices, which I'd never had before, And yeah, I feel successful. I feel fulfilled and stuff like that because that's what I needed out of this year. I don't necessarily think it'll be the biggest priority out of my year ahead. I think that out of 2026, some things that I want to feel is a sense of my seeds that I'm planting coming to fruition. I want to feel a new sense of motivation, a new sense of work ethic. I want to feel a new sense of dreaming, a new level of things that I never could have thought before and stuff like that. I feel like I'm too comfortable. And that's the thing with slowing down sometimes. Like I think we can get so comfortable where we're at and just kind of settle. I'm afraid of settling. I don't want I want to feel like I'm able to surpass what I once thought was possible for me. And I think that's like, some of the things that I'm wanting to do in the following year is to see me stretch, to see my tent stretch in ways that I never thought it could, my camp stretch and stuff like that, to see my reach stretch, to see, like, to have an ability to just kind of tap into territory that I never once thought I could have. And yeah, those are things that I feel like is a more of a priority to me next year rather than prioritizing slowness, and all of that kind of stuff, a steadiness, just a slow pace. I think I'm looking forward to kind of pumping myself up more to gear. I feel rejuvenated and stuff that I'm ready now to take on more, to do more and stuff like that. So you need to ask yourself, what is it that you need? What does success look like for you? What would make you feel accomplished by the end of 2026? I think you need to ask yourself what parts of you need to heal in the next year, right? So for me in 2025, parts of me that needed to heal was my feeling of abandonment, because when my mom passed, that's how I felt. I just felt so like left behind and alone and all of that. And that was a wound that I needed to heal within me. It was something that I needed to kind of target and work towards. How can I self-soothe? How can I fill that gap and stuff like that? How can I allow the people in my life to take up space, to fill something in me, a need and all of that kind of stuff? Like that was one of the wounds that I think I needed to address. And perhaps you're sitting with wounds and things like that you need to, take care of. So what does that look like for you? Does it mean going to therapy? Does it mean journaling? Like what does healing that wound look like? What does it mean taking yourself out of certain spaces, leaving a relationship and all of that kind of stuff? How do you connect with your inner child, that maybe feels neglected, that maybe feels inadequate, that maybe feels less than and all of that kind of stuff, lonely, and the list goes on and on and on. There's something there for you to work with, something there for you to address, something there for you to heal. And I think that if you make that a priority in your next year, you're going to come out of it feeling so much better. Like I feel so supported right now in my life. And I didn't feel that way at the beginning of it, at the beginning of this year. But because I made it a priority to care for this wound of like just feeling so afraid of trusting people, of abandonment, of neglect and all of that kind of stuff, like I'm just kind of letting my guard down a bit and allowing people to come into my life, allowing new friendships to happen. Also, I'm very guarded in terms of making new friends, but like I feel like this year I've opened myself up to meeting people, to exploring relationships with them, which is really, really lovely. Like I think I've stopped giving into that fear, and that feels like an emotional wound or trauma that I have outgrown. And I would encourage you to, work towards things like that. Like, what is it that you want? How can you gain the most fulfillment out of 2026, right? What is going to make you feel like I've owned this year? I've achieved this year? Is it making more money than you ever had? That could be one of the cases and stuff like that will make you feel so like, wow, what an incredible year. Is it traveling, wanting to see more places and all of that kind of stuff? Is it wanting to build more relationships with people or improving your relationships that you already have now and stuff? What will make you feel so happy, that you've really ventured out into this year and put your best foot forward? Create a theme for yourself. So last year, I think my theme was investment. I wanted to invest in myself, whatever that looks like. So I told myself, if I make money, that money needs to go into investing into my brand, into my business and all of that kind of stuff. If I, whatever it is with so this was 2 years ago, sorry, not last year. Whether I want to invest in my appearance and all of that kind of stuff. What does it look like to have a better hygiene routine, taking care of myself, taking care of my skin, taking care of the way I present myself, the way that I look, how I dress and all of that kind of stuff, like making an investment on things like that, good quality things and stuff like that. Like that was what my theme for myself was, which was really great because I think it made me more confident in myself. It made me more confident in rooms that I would take up, more confident to take on certain contracts and ventures and stuff, because that was my theme. It's like I am investing into me, the product, the service that I'm providing. Extra time that I'm putting into the work that I do and stuff. And then, eventually I ended up getting the contract to be in this studio, and that felt like all the investment of like releasing. 2 years ago, I remember, because I was releasing an episode every single week and all of that. It felt like it was finally paying off. So that was my theme. This year, my theme, as I said, was, slowing down, taking it easy, getting healthier, happier, just feeling more steady and grounded. That was what I was working towards and stuff like that. And I think that because I made that my focus, I think sometimes we overwhelm ourselves at the beginning of the year having all these 20 million goals, 20 million themes and things like that. And we're trying to do so much, do too much. It's too much. It's too much. And that's why we get overwhelmed and like eventually don't achieve so many of our goals and stuff like that. But when you just kind of keep it a little bit more concise, a little bit more compact, what is your theme for the year? It helps you have intention, move with intention, move with the idea that when I do this, I'm doing this for this so that I can get this outcome and whatever it is. I think having a theme just keeps you more focused. It gives you a why. Why am I doing this? Why am I choosing to make these decisions? Why am I choosing? You know what I'm saying? Like, I think when you have a why, it makes it a lot more easier also for you to stay consistent, to continue on your path, to maintain the discipline and stuff like that. When you keep remembering, I'm choosing to do this, because there were moments this year where I'm like, why am I slowing down so much? Why am I not putting myself out there a lot more? Why am I not posting on social media week after week? Because I wasn't posting my poetry and stuff. Like in the years before, I'd post every single week. This year, for months, I didn't post, and I'd feel like I'm lazy. I would feel like there's something wrong with me. I'm slowing down. I'm becoming complacent. Then I had to remember why I had to take this time off in the first place. And that was because I was burnt out, because I was fatigued. I was so drained. I had nothing more to give, and when you remember what it is that your theme for the year is, when you remember what it is that your intention for the year is, it helps you stay on course. It helps you stay focused on what it is that you're trying to achieve, right? It gives you purpose also, right? When you know why you're doing this, whether it's for your family, whether it's for the future you, whether it's for whatever it is, you have a purpose to showing up. Why do I show up every week to work or whatever it is? Why do I show up to family gatherings and stuff? Maybe it's because I want to improve my relationship with certain family members and stuff like that. Like it gives purpose to it. It feels like there is value in this thing that I'm doing. There is a plan for why I'm here, for why I'm making this routine and all of that kind of stuff. We're going to get into everything with a lot more detail in the weeks to come, right? But yeah, I'm just trying to give an overview as to where we should start channeling our mindsets and all that kind of stuff as we gear up to the year ahead. Create a plan. Now that you know how it is you want to feel, the intention, your little sentence and word, your theme for the year, whether it is, I know I mentioned in my podcast, one of the episodes earlier this year, that like a lot of the times I tell myself that like, the reason I do something is for the glory of his kingdom, and that's where I would always come. That would be my moral compass, right? Is what I'm doing pleasing the Lord? Is what I'm doing, an extension of his greatness and his goodness and what it is that his work that he's trying to do on earth, and those are certain things that I feel keeps you kind of grounded and all of that. But yeah, now you need a plan. So with the plan, you can start off by having a vision board, right? Putting all your ideas, all your thoughts, all your plans, all your things like that in your head, what it is you want to achieve, what it is you want your year to look like, to feel like, even if it's a color, even if it's a feeling, right? It's a form, it's something you can smell or whatever it is. put it all on the board. It's a mood board. Create a mood board if you want, but just a way that keeps kind of stimulating your brain and your mind as to what it is we're trying to get out of the year, what it is we're trying to get out of our day to day. It's beautiful. It's I think I make a vision board every month. I make one monthly rather than yearly, because I think the year for me just feels too big. It feels too overwhelming. But like monthly, I feel like I can control it more and stuff like that. And it just makes it so much easier for me to just kind of just take charge of my week to week, if I'm being honest and stuff like that. But do that so that you can start to see, it's no more just about the feeling, but it's about seeing it, what it is that you're trying to do. Create systems in your life that support what it is that you're trying to do, trying to achieve, and all of that. Create routines, habits. What are ways that will bring me closer and closer and closer? What are ways that will help me achieve this, that will support me also, right? Support me on my journey of trying to achieve, support me on my path and all of that kind of stuff of what it is. This year, my systems, some of those systems included, just so back to the theme of slowing down, all of that kind of stuff, meant that my Sundays needed to be really calm. My Sundays needed, I would not compromise on that. Like in the years before, I did not mind having stressful Sundays or Sundays where I'm out and about and all of that kind of stuff, but it messed with my Mondays so bad, the beginning of the week so much, that I would feel either depressed or low energy or whatever it is and stuff like that. And this year, my Sundays have been so unbelievably calm in the best ways possible, that I always feel, I don't know, I don't hate my Mondays. I've been having a really good start to my weeks this year. Also because I would have therapy on Mondays and stuff like that. And so it just made me feel better equipped to show up and be there and be you know what I'm saying? Whereas in the past, I would show up in, on a Monday morning, just so out of it, already irritated, already fatigued, already not in the mood, all of that kind of stuff. And it would mess with my attitude throughout the week, So those are certain things you think about. What are the systems you're going to put into place to make sure that, you just stay on par and that you stay focused and all of that kind of stuff. If your goal is to make more money or save more money and stuff, what accounts do you need to have? What are ways that you can, save money, right? What are things that you need to do? Those are part of the systems, right? That will help you save towards, say, it is a trip you're trying to have, or it is a retirement fund or medical aid or whatever it is. Whatever it is that you're trying to do, you can't do it just remaining this version of yourself. You need to now start applying your mind, applying yourself, as I said, what accounts do you now need to open? A savings account or whatever it is that can help you save more and stuff like that will help. Maybe it's like a debit order or something debit order but it's a way where automatically from the money that comes in, a certain portion of it goes into a certain account for savings and stuff. Maybe you need to start implementing those kind of systems to hold you accountable. Another thing, and the last thing, is a self-regulation routine, right? And I spoke about this briefly in my previous episode, but you need to find ways to come back to center, to come back to neutral, come back to baseline, where you feel comfortable with yourself, where you feel assured of yourself, where you're able to not burn out throughout all the goals that you're putting into place for 2026. Things that you do that make you feel safe, that make you feel supported, that make you feel seen, that make you feel like you're giving a section of your life back to you, as much as we spend so much of it giving ourselves out, and these are things that I think will just make you feel more grounded, more stable on the path that you're going to. But yes, as I said, in the next coming weeks, we're going to break things down even more, get into the nitty gritties and all of that kind of stuff. But I really wanted to start this because I'm really passionate about, the community we have here. I'm passionate about the ways that we want to grow, the ways that we want to heal, the ways that we want to be better, if anything, be the best versions of ourselves. And I think that this is where I want to apply myself the most right now, is to putting in kind of plans and stuff in our coming weeks to just help us get one step closer to where it is we're trying to be. As always, I'm sending my love. Goodbye.
What in the 20s is going
in the 20s
here?
The 20s, baby.
What in the 20s is going here for my 20s, baby? This is the 20s.